Welcome back. It's still the sunny side. Hope you had a good time listening to fintechs from Nigeria Info Lagos, teaching you a whole lot. I'm sure you must have learned about financial technology, import business, foreign direct investments, and all of that. So, yeah, we're back. And like I was talking to you earlier on the issue of safety of the Nigerian student in Nigerian schools from kindergarten to university is something that ought to be explored and talked about in view of the alarming rate at which some students go in life and come out dead. It's something we need to talk about. A student of Veritas University died in very suspicious circumstances. And I talked with the uncle. He showed me all that has been carried out, with regards to the post-mortem to check and just ensure that there wasn't any foul play. But that indeed, it proved that there was. He told me a whole lot. But we're trying to walk on the ground to get more information and then, bring it out. But then we will talk anyways. And then apart from that, we had a case of a little boy, very, very little boy who lost his life. In fact, he was 4 years old and his name was Miguel Ovoke, who lost his life in a school that was said to be feeding him, or he was said to be feeding on his lunch. And then somehow he choked on it. I don't know how that happens though. Is it that he carried the meat and did not chew on it and decided to just swallow it and then he choked him? I really don't understand how these things happen though. Okay, so what's the responsibility of the parent? What's the responsibility of the students themselves? But in this situation, like with the 4-year-old, you wonder. I mean, this child, the parent can only do so much, right? They have to be at work, so they drop them off at school, which is the natural thing. And the teachers and the school management are all responsible for the child's well-being and welfare within the time frame that he would have to be in that environment until when the parents come to pick them up, right? Anyways, I would want to have this conversation with Fortune. I want to call him, and I want for us to talk together. So just give me a moment. Let me get in touch with Fortune Agula-Musa, and then we will just open up the conversation. We're streaming live on YouTube and our Facebook, and you can join and drop your comments there. I'll be back.
Hi everyone, my name is Swat. That's the name my father gave me, but you can always call me Her Vocal Majesty. I'm the host of The Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info. It takes place every weekday, noon to 3 p.m., where we get to have all the lovely contemporary conversations. If your days are normally long and gloomy, well, not anymore, because I'm here to make it all bright and sunny for you. So join me. It's an invitation. You don't want to miss out.
This is Nigeria Info.
Dying, we remember Romi's case, who died at Dowen College, even though it was said to be a case of bullying. Remember, that's, so many of them. And then this little boy, Miguel Ovoke, who recently died at the Brick Hall School in Abuja during feeding hours. And so it just brings to mind the question, what is actually happening? What do you think could be some of the factors leading to these losses of students going in alive and then coming out as dead bodies? It's really heartbreaking.
So it's like you said, it's really, really sad. First of all, to think that a parent will take his child to school, expecting that, school is supposed to be the safest place apart from his home where that child should be. And then you are called up, not just for an emergency, but to hear that your child is dead. It's one of the most gruesome things that can happen to a person. But it also shows us the state of our facilities. It shows us the state. It shows us the level of preparedness that we have for emergency situations. It shows us the state of our development. Because if we're talking about these kinds of situations in 2021, where it's not that somebody got a gun out, like in the U.S., and just shot his classmates, which we understand maybe the mental health problem and all of that. But in a case where a child is supposed to be, for instance, feeding hours, children are usually, if you go to the Western world, if you go to places where we are trying to copy their educational systems and all of that, children are not to be left alone. Children are attended to throughout, because children are children. A 4-year-old chokes till he dies, and a teacher who is attending to that person, who is expected to know what to do, does not know what to do. And so this is why you can't even blame the teacher completely, because the requisite training that he needs to intervene in such an emergency, he does not have.
One would even one would ask the question like, okay, how many students or pupils are placed under the care of the teacher at the time that the teacher is able to fully give attention to each one of them, especially kids at that level, that kindergarten, nursery level?
Kindergarten.
Yes.
But if, taking it further, even if there is one teacher to one student, if the teacher does not know what to do in an emergency,
exactly,
the likelihood of losing that one student is still very high.
Very true.
Yeah, because if you go to these universities, if you go to these schools right now, they lay emphasis on teacher to student ratio, and that's why their school fees are so high, because they don't want too many children. They want the teachers to be able to give enough time and all of that, Yet, if the teacher is only a teacher in terms of academic, expertise, and every other area, for instance, pharmaceutical psychology has always spoken about why, as a country, CPR should be common knowledge.
Yes.
To everyone.
Yes.
Yet, we still have institutions where, if you say, what is CPR? In a private school, very expensive, sometimes paid in dollars, they do not have an idea. What do you do when someone is choking? Not even a child. If an adult chokes around you, what do you do?
Exactly. How many of us know that, honestly?
These are the things. So if we don't have it, we've not made it a culture to teach ourselves how to respond in emergency situations. In many buildings, people carry out fire drills, from time to time, so that you know how to behave in an emergency. In places like Japan, you hear how they do drills for natural disasters, for earthquakes.
Yeah, because they are very susceptible to it.
Exactly. 4-year-olds in Japan would handle an emergency better than a 30-year-old in Nigeria.
Indeed.
So it goes back to what culture do we have in our system? What do the regulators regulate? When regulators go to school, what are they looking out for? Is it just, give us a clean bill of health, take your money and go? Or are we actually making the place safer? We even had an initiative not too long ago, Safe School Initiative.
Yes,
right?
yes.
From the previous administration.
Yes.
It was a lot of campaign, a lot of funds went into it. What did the Safe School Initiative achieve? Was it just to prevent terrorists from coming into school?
That was a focus.
Terrorists are prevented. Yes. If terrorists are prevented and then children who are in school still choke to death, what have we done?
It also brings to mind the case of Daniel, who died in Veritas University recently. It's been a back and forth. I was talking with the uncle yesterday who came over, and we were trying to I was asking questions as to, okay, what happened? And of course, he was not there, so he couldn't provide an answer. But then, based on the investigation that he, alongside some other relatives, were carrying on to inquire as to the events that led to the eventual death of Daniel, I mean, it's just heartbreaking in a sense that, number one, what he told me was that this boy went to the gym and then he slumped or whatever it is. And then after a postmortem was carried out on the body, it was shown that there was foul play, strangulation. Now, when he died, he said that there was a police post outside of the school, very close by, and it was not reported. And he was taken to Fatima Hospital, where the school tried to say that, he died there, but the medical director there said he was brought in dead. A lot of questions as to foul play. Why is it that the chief security officer did not report? Why was, the VC, as he alleges, being harsh to them? And a lot of questions that we have with regards to someone's nephew, son, and meaning so many things to many people, and then you be treated with a lot of, do you know who I am, and stuff like that. I mean, in the case of a life dying.
Yesterday, I was at Daniel's funeral at the Gudu Cemetery because I know the family personally. I know Daniel personally.
Okay.
And it's so sad to be speaking about him in this life.
17-year-old boy.
17-year-old. Just fresh into his first year in university. In Veritas, you'd expect that, okay, private school, they should be in the best of hands, everything should be going well. Yesterday, I witnessed the burial of a 17-year-old, and we still can't say exactly what happened. Well, the postmortem, like you said, postmortem results suggest strangulation, but even in speaking with, because I know that some of the students have been taken for interrogation and all of that, there hasn't been a lot established about him having any issues with anyone that would want to attack him. But generally speaking, wherever you find people, there is tendency for certain people to be negatively inclined. There is tendency for foul play, for compromise. I'm not saying that the university, is a terrible place and all of that, but where you have people, the certain people can compromise, and where you don't have systems in place to guide people, mistakes can be made. But there should be, as a matter of regulation, there should be certain things that are in place to help an investigation in case there is foul play, in case there is compromise. For instance, between the hostels and the gym, between the gym and the classes, what kind of surveillance do we have? We should be able to go back to CCTV cameras and say, okay, the children were at this place at so time when this happened, they were in this place. If the school says, he went to the gym and he slumped and he hit a gym equipment, can we see any footage? Do you have anything in place to show us what happens in what corner of the school per time? The chief security officer of the school, what's his report? What is his own personal report to this? In other crimes, when you have unsolved situations like this and an autopsy comes out and they say, it's a strangulation, it probably means that there's somebody with a tendency to harm people on the premises. If you ask me, that premises should have been closed.
Exactly.
Everybody, we do some investigation, and then this is the digital age. Classes can continue online, people can continue with their activities while we get to the bottom of what is going on. But that's not the stance of the university, to the best of my knowledge. And I really wish that we, even if we are not able to completely avoid certain things, we should be able to provide answers when we are asked. That's why we have to be accountable. You can't say that as a university, you set up a university for people to come to learn and everything, and then you cannot to an extent account for them. You can't just say, we're sorry. This is somebody's first child, his first son, 17 years old.
You can't get that back.
You can't get that back. So this is where my own ground is. So at the risk of, I don't want to sound like, we're attacking the university, because
no, nobody is attacking the university. If they have their own side of the story, I mean, they can share. But based on the way we talk with, the uncle and some of the family members.
Yeah.
Of course, this is their story. So, I mean, of course, too, the universities will be rich to hear their own side of the story, and hear what they have to say. But we cannot help but talk about these things or pretend that it did not happen, or because anybody is afraid about hurting another person.
Yeah.
It's a life we're talking
This could
about.
have happened to anyone.
It can
could
happen
have
to
happened
anybody.
any one of those children.
Exactly.
Anyone in that.
I mean, look at the mother of this little boy, this 4-year-old boy, Miguel, who had to carry on the business of protesting. Was it that it was not imperative for the school to even on its own say, well, you know what, let's shut down and investigate?
Let's shut down for a few days.
Did it have to take the mother, a grieving mother, to come with placards alongside people who were supporting her, and then have the police and other people, who they put in there? So one thing I've come to realize in Nigeria is always a big show of power, bullying. Okay, your child died, so what? Our school will not stop because of you, and activities. And it's quite heartbreaking to see that.
It is. I mean, and it cuts across. I think it cuts across our entire culture. In schools, you find these kind of situations in schools. Things can go on and nobody will be harmed. You find it in government. Things can happen. Nobody will be held to account. You find it. Did we not have a recruitment process one time where people were called in to the national stadium, and just for a situation of recruitment, we lost people because of a stampede? Till today, who has been held to account because of that situation? We are continuing with a culture of not being able to hold anybody to account. Yet we wonder why our country is adrift. Yes, we wonder why things are the way they are. We wonder why we still have terrible accidents at traffic stops, and people are not stopping for lights. Yes, they can get away with it. So I think it's the general, and it brings me back to regulation. In certain countries where things are working, it doesn't matter who you are, you're standing in society, whatever it is that you think you have achieved. If you contravene the law, it is clear what is going to happen to you. Right now, what are the regulations? If we say, okay, we want to go back to our policy on safe schools, what does it say about such situations? What does it say? What is it that holds these people to account? And this is where I believe the problem lies. Because if you ask me, Nigerians look like they are unruly, they cannot follow the law, we cannot do this, we cannot do that. Yet, when you get to Heathrow Airport in the United Kingdom, you see Nigerians who are orderly. When you get to a military checkpoint, you see Nigerians who are orderly, right? It means, therefore, that we have the capacity to follow the law, but because we know that there's no
consequences.
There's no consequence. We can just carry on anyhow. Right now, as we're speaking, because it hasn't happened in all the schools yet, people are going about their normal businesses. I know countries where different parents, teachers associations of different schools would have taken it upon themselves by now to say, you know what, we don't understand what's going on in our schools. And even though that was not our school, we want to show our support. We want to put our voice in. We want to make sure that we get to the bottom of this situation.
Yes, to guard against any of our children also falling victim.
Or our children, exactly. That's the attitude where you see. But I mean, we just hear it as it's news. Their parents, teachers association presidents that are listening to us right now. It will not come up in their own meeting, or it will come up, but it will be, let's just, this thing happened there. Let's just do our best. Let it not happen here. Principal, I hope you are hearing us. Please, let it not happen. Has there been any training for CPR for teachers in your school? Has there been training for emergency management situations? What is the policy on the safety of the school? Because as I speak to you, I have 2 children in school right now, and my mind is at rest because I believe they are safe. So this is a very serious situation. I don't think we should wait until it becomes oh, 21 people were taken from a school before we now set up a task
Exactly.
force,
I mean,
and then we'll set up.
The reason why I even thought about it is that it's not enough that we have, how do I call it, a Nigeria-induced kind of problem, or a Nigerian problem, in the sense that you send your children to school and then terrorists and some wicked souls will come and pack them into the forest and be asking for some outrageous 900 million. We all now have an additional problem in the sense that the very school environment and a lot of factors are mitigating against the well-being of the kids. I mean, look at what we're talking about. Daniel, we're asking questions. Okay, what happened? What really happened? It's a back and forth between the school and the parents because we do not have a specific answer. The case of Miguel is the same thing. I remember the case early this year too. We were talking about one Ali. What's the name of this boy in Lagos who was flogged by his teacher?
Okay,
Baba Dikpo. Yes. He was flogged to death. And then there was also the case of how many students? About 20 that were said to have died within a school. Also, I think in Lagos when meningitis hit, So apart from the catastrophe of...
That's not to mention the bullying.
The bullying, of course. So it's a pile of dangers, red flags. So, I mean, is it that people should not send their children again to school, or what exactly are we talking about?
Well, at the end of the day, I think running a school is more than just having a curriculum. It's more than just being an American Montessori, British, this and that. All of these things, international school, international this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we call ourselves international, yet international standards are
ready to take
Okay, hold on.
an adventure with Eat Right. Experience meals made with love, served with smiles and a chilled reef.
I keep my sunny side up.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
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 This is Nigeria Info.
yeah, I quite understand.
Yeah, so go on.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I believe that there's much more for us to do in terms of regulation, in terms of holding ourselves accountable, and in terms of making our schools safer. I was saying before we went on the break that running a school is beyond having a curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about, we are British, we are Montessori, we are, these days you even see countries in West Africa flaunted to us,
Exactly.
Ghana, Nigeria school, just so that you have this feeling of, okay, my child is receiving education that can serve them to be prepared for the international world. Everybody wants a better opportunity for their children, but if the child is not safe, then the opportunities are still lost. If the child is not secure, then the opportunities are still lost. And then when you are asked, because accidents can happen, True. But when accidents happen, if you are not able to answer the question of how did it happen, it means that you cannot learn the lessons that will stop it from happening the next time. So it's not just about getting justice for the children who have suffered it. It's also about safeguarding the children of the future who might be in harm's way. And that future can be as early as 6 hours from now, as 2 hours from now. Something can happen, you know. We're talking about global warming. We're talking about, flooding, possibilities of flooding and natural disasters. We have had a ground tremor here in the FCC not up to 5-6 years ago. Do you remember when the ground was?
Yeah, there was a tremor. Yeah.
Mbappe.
Yes.
But you see, as Nigerians, we have this very, very terrible tendency of forgetting things very easily, and because we forget, we fail to learn from
our experiences.
The experiences of these things that happen. We just talk about it and we forget. We're not saying, okay, this happened. What and what caused it to happen? How do we make sure that next time this kind of thing wants to happen, we are prepared? And it is now. Choking should have taken before, for instance, amongst training exercises that we do for caregivers. How do you respond when somebody is choking? It should have become an issue by now, but no. So it's quite frustrating for me.
Indeed.
If you ask me, really.
You made a very interesting point and very important one that we fail to learn from our experiences. I mean, out of the myriad of cases that we have of children who have had to go to school and were killed either by choking or by teachers being accused of abusing, as with the case of Karen, if you remember, yes, it was said that a condom was left in her body and she died. I don't know if we've learned from that, because if tomorrow it happens again, then we should blame ourselves from that. Or with the case of Daniel, who fell in the gym and postmortem is saying that someone choked him. We're still on it, though. We're waiting to know what exactly is going to come out of that case as we follow up. And a couple of other things, flogging, a lot of things. What have we learned? What are we putting in place to guard against future occurrences? But you'll be shocked, Fortune, that, God forbid, tomorrow we wake up and it happens again. And it just becomes a case of discussing for the moment and then move on to the next topic. It's quite heartbreaking to see that these things, and it's not only with the death of students, it's with every other sector or every other segment of our lives that we fail to learn. We talk about it, push it under the carpet until it happens again, and then we dig it back up and we're wailing and crying. I really don't understand what is wrong with us as a society. But,
go
ahead.
Most of the cases we have seen, a good number of the cases we have seen have been in our very large cities, talking about Abuja, talking about Lagos, talking about Port Harcourt, right? And these are places where reporting are at their best in the country. So you get to have outspoken parents, people who know how to get their voices heard, because of this level of enlightenment and all of that. Only God knows what's happening,
exactly.
nationwide.
In places like Jigawa or Taraba.
Jigawa, Yobe,
all those,
Kano.
yes.
What's happening in such places with children in schools. Then beyond that, you can only fear for the nation what we are doing. I think that at this point we have a mandate secretary for for instance, we have FCT. The minister is there. We have the mandate secretary for education. I don't want to take it all the way to the Minister of Education. The mandate secretary for education for FCT, what has been their response, for instance, concerning these kinds of situations? You have one story, a second story in less than 3 months. Look at the number of school incidences we have had this year. And it's still not enough for us to have our politically exposed persons, taking up initiatives in this direction. It is saddening. Sincerely, it is. I expect that the mandate secretary that has to do with education for the FCT should have a statement about this, should start a program about this, should do some awareness, should call in, the education board and their directors. What are we doing to change the situation? And then, because we have spoken about parents and teachers and school administrations, but we also need to talk about the regulators, because at the end of the day, if there's no regulation, of course, it's a free-for-all.
Indeed, you're very correct. You're very, very correct, because if government and its agencies who are enforcers of some of the, because clearly we have, regulations or laws that would not be in support of this, but I mean, just how much of the enforcement do we get to see? It's not the absence of the law, but and then the nonchalant attitude, lack of living up to the responsibility or billings of some of these government agencies to ensure safer school spaces and all of that. Okay, let's take comments from the listener. Would you be available for that, or would you?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to listen in a little bit. So
okay.
Please, let's just.
All right, quickly, please send in your contribution by way of calling or messages on 0700 951 0000 and 08095974869. We also have 08099930137. Hello? 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 Okay, this person probably doesn't know that I picked up the call, so you can call me back. See, somebody else is here. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Ume.
Welcome, doctor.
Yeah, I've been listening to the conversation. There are a lot of dimensions to this, my own contribution. Growing up, we had, I don't know if they are still functional, teachers in colleges back then, when I was much younger, where teachers were trained, properly
I don't
trained.
seem to hear that.
I feel like now a lot of people are going into teaching as something to fall back on when they don't have anything else to do. Teaching is calling. So if someone is doing this because they just want, I'm looking for a job and I don't have anything else to do, so I just drop an application somewhere, get into a school. You're not going to be doing that because it's what you want to do. And so I'm not surprised that we get a lot of all these complaints about flogging and all of that. That's one dimension. Then another one, there are just so many private schools now. There are just so many. The government doesn't have, you don't even know how many they are. There's no regulation. You don't know what they do. You don't know the standard of the teachers. If there's any training at all, like I just mentioned. So those are the issues. Then the speaker talked about training. The little boy who choked on the meat that he was eating. I don't understand why a school shouldn't have teachers properly trained. I am a doctor, and I know that there are some maneuvers that are done. Teachers should be trained on first aid, on CPR, on things that you can be done if there's an incident in a school. Thank you.
All right, doctor, thank you so much. Hello?
Hello, Swat. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome.
My name is KJ. I'm calling from Wokola.
Okay, go ahead.
I just joined and don't really know what you're discussing, but I heard as if it's Fortune that's on talking.
Yes, he's the one talking, sir. He's the one.
Good afternoon, my pastor. Good afternoon. Quite a while. I don't know the topic, so I will just stop here by greeting you and greeting Nigerian callers, listeners, and all other well-wishers. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank
I can't
you.
hear them anymore.
Uh-oh, sorry about that, Fortune. Hello?
Yes, hello, Adadorama.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes. Fortune, can you hear?
I can hear now.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Fortune. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Adadorama, those days when we are growing up, students are being treated like prince and princess. You understand? No, most of these days is not more like that. I don't know why. The government has to do something about it. Even though it's your child or not your child, the way anybody with school uniform, the way you teach them, you take care of them, in short, life is really good those days. But these days, nobody care again. Even the government that's supposed to back these children, they are not money for them. I think government will send the agency in every private school, you understand, so that they will be monitoring these children. And they will give report at the end of the day to the education board. Look at what is going on. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Donatus. Let me read some messages here. Good afternoon. It's high time schools and parents understand the kind of staff they employ and who parents keep their kids under their custody. A nanny in a setting crash suffocated a baby to death while feeding the baby Indomie, and the caregiver was pinching the nose as she claimed that the mother instructed as the baby doesn't like food. Interesting. Okay. Let me see. This one says, good afternoon, SWAT. One too many events of students dying in schools. When will Nigeria be serious about the life of its citizens, says KZ. And then this one says, let me take this call. Hello? Okay, sorry, that didn't stay. Hello? Okay, why are the calls dropping? Sorry about that. Let's take a WhatsApp call. You might not hear this very well, Fortune, because I understand the, distance, but let's still take it anyways. Hello? Okay, this is not connecting. It's not connecting. Right, another call. Hello? Hello?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, such an interesting discourse. I, Goje, calling from Kubwa.
Welcome. Go ahead.
I wonder when schools stop taking responsibility for what happened. The few occasions we have recent, we have the death of a child in Abuja. Sometimes ago, student was raped in one of the schools. These could all absorb themselves from blame. One would ask, why is it so? Just like doctor said, help me now believe that. Did I say, okay, school to them is now transactionary because they believe opening a school or having a school is even better than having a restaurant. This school proprietor, they are cooks. They are good cooks at children, but they have to have the money to go into education because education pays. That is what today you find. Every town, Dick and Harry, they have schools. Go to Kuba and see a number of, go to Maraba and see a number of schools. These schools, they proprietary don't start from the owners of this. They do not have the love, as I have said before. They are there for the pecuniary gain. How about the teachers? Frustrated teachers. Teachers who are not well remunerated. Teachers who don't have the love for teaching. So why would things like this not happen? God's sake. I asked my child, I sent my child to go in hotel. He choked while eating it. I don't understand. A child of 4 years.
All right.
We heard of one who died in a Verita University. Some of them, some accounts is that he was beaten by students, is absorbing them. So why? It is a high time owners of school start taking responsibility. And it's a high time the authority needs to go on as a deterrent.
Okay. Thank you.
Like getting free.
Appreciate that. Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's take on these messages here. Cost of debt in our schools is a reflection of what's happening in our society. It's a shared blame among the school government and parents. Teachers should be trained as first aiders and CPR specialists, says Sheung Adiago in Gwarimpa. Okay, good afternoon, Swat says Hafsa. Thank you so much. Let's see. Another one here is calling. It's still a WhatsApp call, but then we'll quickly take the final words of Fortune in a bit. Let's see. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Okay. This is my own blues.
Okay, welcome. Hello. Okay, I don't know why the network is a bit bad today, and the phone calls just beep sometimes and then it just goes off as if it's coming on and off. But Fortune, you've heard some of the things that they said, like the doctor was saying, training of teachers, like you rightly said, and a whole lot of comments with regards to what we're looking at. Let's begin to round up because I need to let you go. I know you are a busy person. What would be your message, to schools, students, government, etc., etc.?
Quite simple. Let's learn. Let's not just comment. Let's not be commentators on issues. Let's learn from these issues. Let's push in the places where we need regulation. We shouldn't only be, activated when it has to do with a criminal case in EFCC between the governor and the EFCC. No, that's not when you should be activated. Your children, if you ask a child there, who would you want to spend time with? If you had only 10 minutes in the world to spend time with somebody, who would you want to spend your time with? A child will tell you his daddy or his mommy, or his daddy and his mommy.
Yes.
That's because to them, you are the most important people in the world. But if I ask the adults now, who would you want to spend, if you have only 10 minutes, who would you want to spend it with? They probably have some celebrity somewhere. Somebody will say Cristiano Ronaldo. The other one will say Messi. The other one will say, if I could only meet MK or Abiola, if I could only do this. We forget our children very easily. Very easily. And I think that culture is showing up in our government, is showing up amongst parents, is showing up amongst teachers, is showing up everywhere. Yes, we have a generation of young people who also do not have reverence for elders these days, but that also comes because we have a generation of elders who have forgotten their children. And so I'm saying these situations have happened. Daniel is a very close child to me. I've picked him from school before when he was in primary school. I know these children. And so it pains me as I speak about it. So what does the pain give birth to? The pain we feel when we hear these things, does it give birth to action or does it make us docile? Does it give birth to us taking steps to change it? For instance, are you going to start up a process in the PTA in your school so that a statement can be made from your own Parents Teachers Association concerning this? Are we going to send out statements to the Mandate Secretary on Education to stop being quiet about it and do something from their end? Are we going to support the parents who have lost their children to get justice for their own children so that anybody knows that if anything happens in your school and you don't have answers, that's the end of that place? People should know that. And so I just believe that it's our responsibility if we want to change it.
Very, very true. Thank you so much, Fortune. It's really, this is very insightful, all that you said. And I hope this provokes action, not just comments, not just making, some comments here and there, and then we just go to sleep. Because, like they always say, yesterday's victims or yesterday's survivors are today's victims. And tomorrow's victims might just have been yesterday's survivors. So if we don't take action today, who knows what will happen? I mean, if you throw your head the other way, God forbid, it could just be yours tomorrow. The other people who lost their children did not plan for their children to die.
No, they didn't.
But it happened. And so we cannot continue on the same trajectory and keep saying, God forbid, or throwing it off into the air as though these problems do not exist. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you, Fortune.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me let you go now and continue with my people as they throw in the comments. I'm sure you will listen via the radio. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's Fortune there. Fortune Agla Musa, our colleague and friend, of course, just lending his voice to this issue of the safety. We're further questioning the safety of our schools in view of the fact that, right from January till now, it might not be happening every month, but we've had reasons to question how students have had to die, whether pupils or students who are placed in the care in a school. We're not saying that the schools are totally, at fault, but there should be some sort of accountability system where the school is able to say, well, based on what we know, based on the CCTV cameras, based on this and that, this is how it happened. Some sort of accountability measures. And then also, like he rightly said, what are parents doing, to ensure that, action, very deliberate action is taken to ensure that the safety of their children and wards is safeguarded. If the school does not see the need to train teachers, have you brought that up in the PTA? Have parents come together to say, well, for the safety of our children, let's contribute and ensure that these teachers are trained for CPR, for first aid, for other things in case of emergencies? If the school does not feel the need, have you championed the cause? Have you written letters? Have you petitioned the government to come in, join other parents who have become victim of this to ensure that justice is done, and let the schools also know that if you become complacent and anything happens, then you know that you are running the risk of closing down the school? Or are we going to allow some of the tyrannical attitude, the bullying attitude we see, like, yeah, your child is dead, but there's nothing you can do about it? That's what we see every day. There's nothing as painful as losing a child, and someone who is supposed to be responsible and give some sort of account is telling you that there's nothing that can be done. Do you know who I am? It's just what we see in society, and it's quite unfortunate. Anyways, let's take more calls. It's 1:48, so I still have a little time on my hands. If you want to comment, if you want to throw in a comment, I would still love to hear from you. And you can drop your messages on our YouTube page and our Facebook page. Please, let's get talking and still have your comments. Let me see. I think I have more messages that have come in. Okay, no, not really. Okay, it's still 0700 951 0000 and 08.